All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Organic Fitness Podcast. Yes, I am the host, Colman. So if you're a long-term listener, welcome back to the show. If you're a first-time listener, where the hell have you been? We've been here every single Thursday for over 2 years. It's early morning here as I drink a warm beverage, partially tea, because it's in season, full of antioxidants. And we have a Q&A on our hands right here, right now. So we'll go straight away through the 4 main questions that we will be discussing in this week's podcast. So this one comes in from Village from the Trolls on TikTok. I forgot what social media it came from. If I buy non-organic like basil, is washing good enough? Great question. Next question we go on to is top 3 books I've read. Molly 2. And the next one we have is tips for building lean muscle from John Kingston. And then we have the final question, is free range eggs as good as organic? Great questions. And we will be going through those in that order right here, right now. So what I must touch on is the first question. If I buy non-organic produce such as basil, is it good enough? And this is a really important point because not everybody most certainly can afford to consume everything organic. And that's absolutely fine. But what washing does is and can remove up to 80, if not 90%, depending on how many harsh chemicals were sprayed and the particular ones on the products that you end up and do consume. I love talking about the benefits of the food item as well, because basil is an adaptogenic herb. That means it helps the body deal with stress. So if you're under a lot of stress, if you want to reduce stress, either way, for more energy levels, it's something that I definitely add into your diet. Dried is another option. And you can also make pesto with it, but not only those things that are beneficial towards your overall health, it's major of flavor. That's people making healthy meals. They think it has to taste like rubbish or garbage. Using spices and herbs is absolutely key. And one of those things that when you are, I suppose, consuming more single ingredient foods, basil in the likes of which are pasta is amazing. And if you do eat cheese, you can then mix and match and most certainly gain the advantage of just those winning single ingredient foods. So I always recommend people to either firstly get it local, then get it fresh, then get it organic in the gold standard. So chemical free growing your own basil is probably the next best step, and I'm going to touch on that here now because a lot of people are growing their own, becoming, I suppose, more self-sufficient is something that's desirable for people with things going on in this world. God help us and save us. And basil is something you sow at this time of year in spring, and it has to either go in a warm windowsill and or grow in a glasshouse or a polytunnel. Why? Just think of the example of where it comes from. It comes from typically hot Mediterranean climate. Get me the sun. Sun's so good for you. Sun's so really good. Let's even make up because it's not actually that warm. Here, no Mediterranean heat just yet. Just yet. Wait till the summer comes. So yes, these are all things that I do recommend to sow a seed today to gain advantage in the future. You can sow in either a singular pot or cell. So pot or cell, just make a ring with your fingers, index and thumb. That is roughly the size that you will all need to start off your basil seeds in. And sowing 3 to 5 seeds, and as a result of that, just transplanting into a bigger pot, winning on a Wednesday. So that is how you sow it. And the tip I'm going to give you then for harvesting it later on, whether it stays in that pot or just being transplanted as it goes on, is to only prick out the top 2 emerging leaves. Don't pick the lower, don't pick the lower ones. And that's inevitably what people do. I come on, I want to make a bolognese sauce this evening. Pick all the leaves. Literally, what you're doing is taking off every limb found on that plant so it cannot make food for itself. Because that's exactly what it does when you think about it. Food is made from the leaves of the plants that inevitably keep it alive. And if you continue to take all the lower leaves, it cannot make food for itself, and therefore it kicks the bucket out the gap. So that's really important for, I suppose, yourself to understand that that's how plants grow with their leaves. They make photosynthesis. And touching on that point is, if you do want loads of basil, have a couple of different pots. Don't just have the one, because you will never really want more basil than that plant can produce. There's only so much work we can do in a day. And same with the plants. They can only produce so many leaves. So inevitably, people that I mentor and coach, and a lot of people are doing a little bit of growing. And if you can't grow in a polytunnel or a glass house, pots on a windowsill are an absolute winner. You can literally jumpstart that and just buy the pots itself and keep it alive that bit longer. Less water with basil for the win, because again, it comes from the Mediterranean. It doesn't need that much water. It doesn't need a little bit. And most people tend to overwater basil, and they literally drown it, as well as kill it in every other way possible. Kind of like, how can this plant survive? But I'm here with the tips about nutrition and grow your own. So we're touching on having at least 4 pots this coming spring. So sowing your own or buying it, jumping ahead, will get you to, I suppose, eliminate the amount of chemicals that are inevitably sprayed on those products. Bish labash. And then I like expanding on this point that it's, when you get it non-organic and you wash it, you're removing chemicals, but you're not getting away from the fact that it's harsh chemicals that are sprayed on the plants and then the soil and everybody around it to, I suppose, prevent weeds growing. That's having a negative effect on soil microorganisms, because remember, we're only here for a short period of time. And a lot of people talk about gut health, inclusive of myself, because I do love overall health, because it's linked with your gut. But those microorganisms located in the soil are so beneficial for breaking down material that otherwise wouldn't have been available for the plant. And then once there's more vitamins and minerals and microorganisms breaking down those materials, the plants, the basil, the tomatoes, the kale, the spinach, the beetroots, the onions, the garlics, the leeks, any vegetable that's grown in the soil that you consume are more nutrient dense. And sometimes we forget that point, where food actually comes from and how it actually gets to from farm to fork, or from polytunnel to fork, or glasshouse to fork. For you to eat it is key, and understanding food is really important, and getting that realization that not all food is created equally. And if something is sold for 49 cents and it's sown a seed, it's watered, it's transplanted, it's weeded, it's trained, it's potted on, it's packaged, it's put in a pot and transported to the shop, then you buy it. And how could it possibly, anybody ever think that you could buy something for 49 cents and it be beneficial for yourself or the environment? And somebody's losing out there, because the cost of food is never cheap, and the value of food is underrated. We're wasting a high percentage of foods. We're not eating in season, and that's really important as well, because then that, I suppose, reduces air miles. Air miles is reducing pollution in the air, and there's very few things left on this earth that are not polluted. We've polluted the soil, we've polluted the water, we have polluted the air, but the sunlight is one of the very few things that are actually left in this world that we have not been able to contaminate as of yet, to my knowledge. And yeah, that's, I suppose, the expansion on, if you're buying organic basil, can you wash it? Yes, most certainly, get in and on it. And I must do a separate video on the differences in taste when non-organic, maybe washed basil, and other basil things, other basils that are organically grown or chemical free by yourself, and we'll do a taste test. How would you like that? Send me a message directly on either Instagram and get email, and I will sort that out. Next up on, I suppose, the topic of growing your own, there is going to be an opportunity to come to a farm in Kildare. So if you are interested in growing your own, be more sustainable, and I suppose understanding where food comes from, if you want to grow any type of crop, I do recommend an event that we will be hosting. It will be in Lollymore, County Kildare, and the, I suppose, exact date and time will be inevitably decided on by the time this podcast comes out. So if you are interested in that at all, get in contact with me. I might have it in the show notes, the exact date, if there is one set. So, because I really do enjoy, I suppose, getting people to grow their own for not only themselves, their family, but also their friends or anyone else they come into contact with or cook with. Because food is so important. We do it every day. In fact, most of us 3 times a day, some people more. I remember when I actually started fitness first, I ended up going, oh yeah, what's healthy? All right, yeah, winning. Now it's eating 6 times a day. I was starting at about 7 o'clock in the morning. That's neither here nor there. All right, on to the second question by Molly 2. How convenient is Molly get her Molly 2 get her question input number 2. So top 3 books I've read. This is, I suppose, important because books are, I suppose, a gateway into the author's mind in relation to the information they're trying to concise into a certain amount of words for the readers to gain the knowledge of a particular topic. And that's exactly what I do with my book. No, it's not out yet. No, it's not out yet. It'll be soon. It will be soon. I get so excited because I cannot wait. But that's the 3 books I've read. 3 top books I've read isn't my own book. I could put it in there. That'll be 4. And of course, it'll be on the top. Winning. Going to be a bestseller book, so stay tuned for that. And the one at the top of the list is Compound Effect, which actually did help me. Compound Effect is one of the top books I have read, and that's by Gary Kelleher. It's one of those books that actually helped me to write my own book. It's really about doing one thing to improve, and that's what I had to do. And I recommend to people, if they want to achieve anything, whether it be a fitness goal, you do one training session followed by another. You do one healthy food choice followed by your breakfast, your lunch, then your dinner. And it's not ever that realization that you have to be the best. You just have to do your best. And it's difficult for everybody. Difficult for everybody to exercise, difficult for everybody to make those healthy food choices. And you have to realize that your actions have a result. And if you're constantly doing the things such as a compound effect, they will all build up in the right manner for you to achieve whatever it is you want. And I did the exact thing each and every morning as a symbolization of getting things done, and it being me being quite visual. I put €1 in a jar every time I wrote in the coin. The jars are, for those on YouTube, just right there, probably right there where my index finger is. There's in total 2 jars for the 2 years that it took. And it's what anybody can do to, I suppose, achieve a weight loss goal, get it, I suppose, an improved position in a relationship, and anything that you want. It's that realization that one coin followed by one action leads to a result. And that's a definite book that I would recommend highly on your reading list. And I actually read the book on Audible, then I bought the book and I listened to it again, running over, because I'm a dyslexic, and it just, I suppose, is a way of cementing in the information that was passed on. Great book, Gary Kelleher, Compound Effect. That's number 1. And Optimal Nutrition, and that's by Pat Holford. This is quite a large book, and I didn't start here on Optimal Nutrition. It's like a Bible. I think actually the start of the book actually says Optimal Nutrition, the Bible of nutrition. But before I read that book, I started off with the basics of nutrition for dummies, and that is a real breakdown of simple things, because people are not doing the simple things, and they're not consuming enough, I suppose, single ingredient foods. They don't know what foods contain vitamin C. Peppers actually have higher vitamin C than an orange, which is the horticultural fact of the day, and you can grow peppers in Ireland, most certainly, and any country for that matter. But most people think, they don't, you can't grow peppers. You can, but they're not actually an organic fitness food, just due to the fact that they are inevitably only give you 5 peppers per plant, which is not enough really. You're much better off growing a tomato or French beans and or basil, because they are all organic fitness foods. And for that reason, because you either grow them or buy them. I cannot wait till the book comes out so I can talk more about the book. This is in the book. And yes, so that is, I suppose, where I started off. The Optimal Nutrition is a kind of an upgrade on exactly what I do recommend, because you got to start at the basics, understanding vitamins and minerals, and then progressing on to antioxidants, because most people then don't understand protein, fats, and carbs. That protein contains 4 kilocalories per gram, fats contain 9 kilocalories, and carbs actually contain the same calories as protein, yet they're demonized. Fish, labash, labash. And in that, I suppose, book Optimal Nutrition, it goes into depth about how carbohydrates are the body's first source of energy converted into glycogen that's stored in the muscles. And then if you exceed the amount of mass, literally like if you had a oh my God, it's so visual. I have your muscle, which is the cup, simply the cup. And as a result of that, if I was to keep on filling the cup all the way past the point of fullness, it spills out over. But in the case of the water spilling out over, then it gets stored and us as body fat. That is something I really did learn and enjoy learning from through Optimal Nutrition. So it's about consuming the right amount of water and foods. Taking that example, of liquid that it restored for yourself to have enough energy, but not too much that it end up storing as body fat. That was simple. That was visual. I love that drink. I'll drink to that. Pinkies up right there, right here. So that is moving on to the next of the books I highly enjoyed reading, and as this will set me on a path of optimal health. It's light being medicine. The idea that food is actually stored energy from light, because the sun is so important. Without it, we would not be able to live. We need it for our own energy levels. And it's that, I suppose, number one fact that, on a hot day that people lose their appetite, it's due to the fact that your body actually needs less energy, so less food. Inevitably, so a lot of people tend to lose weight in the summer months. And that's why, I suppose, coming up, we're in spring right now, and taking people on the organic fitness program, it makes it a hell of a lot easier because they can get their steps in. They're eating much more greens, they're moving. And as a result of that, when you move more, you use up more energy, use up more calories. That helps you get into the calorie deficit. But eating the right types of foods for, I suppose, your specific current height and weight, and making sure we're getting it organic at a gold standard, getting it local, bish bash. Yes. So that is key. And then that book further expands onto how it can be important to get light in your eyes, because that is setting your circadian rhythm, which leads to improved sleep and improved energy levels, which also leads to you being a healthier and a happier individual. Why? Because when you're more energetic, you're much more likely to be productive. And when you're unproductive, you inevitably are getting more shit done on a daily basis. People have got raises before, and they will continue to do so as well. Things with light that are really important is getting it on your face, and in particular in your eyes. You don't have to look at the sun directly if you do have issues with your eyes. So I do recommend, yes, grounding in the morning as well, which is following other recommendations from a book that I have read called Grounding. But there's so many books that I've consumed that benefit me. And yeah, so light key in and on around your face and in your eyes, because your eyes are the gateway to the brain, which switch on the likes of neurotransmitters. It's just switch on the light switch. Switch on the light switch, exactly what it does. And as a result of that, you are much more alert. And that's one of the main reasons I don't need to drink coffee, because I use light, I use nature, I use what God has given us, the world has given us. And in that, getting it some sunlight later on in the evening, sunlight, to signify the production of melatonin. Melatonin is that sleep hormone we've touched on in numerous podcasts. And if you haven't checked out the sleep podcast, I do recommend that. And yes, so those would be 3 books I would definitely add to your reading list. Light is key, and getting it at certain amounts. So sunlight is recommended daily without the likes of sun cream. I don't use sun cream. In fact, I use moisturizer. I use coconut oil as a moisturizer, as well as an SPF. There's roughly about 8. There's different amounts of sun protective factor in it that I do use, and it also doubles up as a moisturizer. So that is something that I do recommend to people. Moisturize not only from the outside, but also from the inside out. And coconut would inevitably be something that I consume in my meals, because it is a high, and there's a high smoke point. There we go. So Yes. Oh, yeah. Sunscreen prevents you producing vitamin D. Vitamin D is a natural mood improver while also boosting your immune system. And these are all kind of simple things that improve your overall health. Moving on to question number 3. John Kingston coming in from Instagram. Tips for building lean muscle. Okay, straight away. The fact is, there are different, I suppose, people on end of the spectrum. There are people who want to lose weight and there are people who want to build lean muscle. The thing is, the training is pretty much the exact same. You're always focusing on large muscle groups. You're focusing on squats. You're focusing in on chest press. You're focusing on shoulder press. And inevitably, you are tearing muscle fibers. So the tearing muscle fibers uses energy, uses calories. But if you stay in a calorie deficit, you're losing weight, in particular body fat. If you stay in a calorie surplus, you're able to build lean muscle, which is important because the more muscles you have, the more food you can eat. Why? Because we have a larger cup to fill. Larger cup. This will be used in future demonstration purposes. Thank you so much for listeners. You actually came up with that. We did as a team, because we're a team. So glad you're listening to this podcast. And yes, that is how we do it. That's the first thing you have to do, because there's no point in, I suppose, upping your foods, because if you do up your foods and you don't do the training, you can't build lean muscle. So we tear the muscle fibers. Inevitably, fix my collar. Inevitably, that was the first thing you have to do. Either staying in the hypertrophy range, which is 8 to 10, if you're in a gym, or have the facilities to use incremental increases from 5 kg to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 to 10, 11 to 12 to 20 to 100 kg, dependent, or pounds. Then we'll switch up another way of progressively overloading the muscle, going from 30 seconds to 40 seconds to 50 seconds to 60 seconds. And inevitably, you're changing up the stimulus because your body adapts to exactly what type of stimulus and stress is being put under. So those are the training tips that I recommend. Large squats, large muscle group squats, chest press, shoulder press, and shoulder, back, chest, and inevitably the 4 main large muscle groups of the body. And then you have to consume a higher protein content in your diet. Why? Because that's protein's first main job after training, to consume and help repair and cells that have been inevitably worked out in that Szechuan. So that is the key ingredient. But the certain amount of protein that you consume is key, because it's typically 1.5 grams per kg of body weight. That is particularly important for both individuals for weight loss or building lean muscle, because you cannot build muscle without the likes of you being a calorie surplus and consuming enough protein for those muscle fibers to repair its and them cells. So that's the first of which. Next is fats, because what fats do are healthy fats as well, important because they're 9 kilocalories. They help you to get in the calorie surplus, up in your calories for, I suppose, getting you to help break down the protein, because that's what fats do as well. Fats are beneficial in fact, they're not only increasing the absorption of fat soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, more vitamins, more energy, but they help break down proteins from the foods that we consume in that meal and previous meals we have had. Carbohydrates then are the next thing. And what are carbohydrates that I recommend? Complex carbohydrates from, sourdough bread, fermented also for good health. We're going on to your likes of your brown pastas, brown rice, and potatoes. I love potatoes. They're winning, and they're an organic fitness food as well. That is also in the book. And you can report potatoes gain antioxidants too. So those are the simple basic principles that I go through with people starting off in the program. And that is the ethos that I have, that you incrementally start your training at baseline, wherever you're at right now. It could be at the bottom rank, it could be at the middle, it could be at advanced. Either way, these simple principles, such as progressively overload, eating high protein meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or if you're eating 2 meals a day, or either or, whatever meals you're eating 1.5 to 2 grams of protein, recapper. And there we go. Is free range as good as organic eggs? This main question is really important. Why? Because eggs are nature's multivitamin. They contain a host of vitamins and minerals and are complete protein, as well as contain healthy fats, and they're low carbohydrates. That's why they're great. That's why they're great. And when we understand that more and more people should consume eggs in their diet due to the fact that it is a food source that's quite natural. The main point of this is touching on, is free range as good as organic? I do recommend people to consume organic foods, but this is a main point I'm trying to stress here. Organic is a registered term. So you can have chickens in your backyard and they being fed better nutrition if you feed them with the correct feed. And I'm just going to expand on here now. The feed of the animals and their produce, whether it be the chicken or the eggs, inevitably will have better nutrition, the free range ones, because the free range are giving better food. But here's the point. Most people don't feed their animals high quality food. So chickens that I rear myself, most certainly are getting lentils. Lentils, would you believe it? They contain protein, but not a complete protein. They could also get in their diet, gaining advantage of hemp seeds or cheese seeds that are something that combine together, interlock and make complete protein. But not only that, they also can gain the advantage of oats. Those are the main three sources of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Carbohydrates being your main source of your oats. Lentils are both carbohydrates and protein, and then your healthy fats combined with the lentils make a complete protein. This is what I recommend. Organic food or eggs is something that I do recommend to people who cannot gain the advantage of knowing where their food comes from. If you're going to a shop, you're better off buying organic. Why? Because they have higher omega-3. Both of those animals will have higher omega-3. Understand where your food comes from, rear your own chickens, and if not rearing your own chickens, I highly recommend you to get organic for the best bang for your buck. All right, lads, those are the four main questions we have recapped in this Q&A. We went through buying organic basil, and is there a difference between conventional washing it? It does take off the chemicals, but it doesn't avoid the likes of the soil health that is negatively affected when harsh chemicals are used. The 3 books I've read that I recommend: The Compound Effect, Optimum Nutrition, Light Being Medicine, and my own book, The Power of Organic Fitness. Oh my God, it's going to be unreal literally. And when this comes out, it'll be very soon. I'll be shouting it. Next one is Tips for Building Lean Muscle, Compound Effect, working there. And next point of which is free range eggs as good as organic? You know the drill. Stay tuned, stay classy, and keep it organic. Oh, there's actually, before I finish up, retreat dates down in Skull still available if you want to book in for those. Send me a message on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Colman Organic Fitness, and we will get you in for those. So that's it. We're out. 3, 2, 1.